winds in the Caribbean this morning. Hurricane Irma remains a Category 5. Could this monster intensify even more? Jim.
Some of the models say it actually will. People along the East Coast boarding up, gassing up, stocking up ahead of Irma, which is likely to make landfall in the United States. But there has been a shift in the models this morning, Jen.
And it's important to know your zone with Irma's track still uncertain. If you were told to evacuate, would you know where to go? We're helping you get ready this morning right here on the Weather Channel.
All right, here we go, guys. Good morning. We are definitely dealing with one heck of a storm. I'm meteorologist Jim Cantori, along with meteorologist Stephanie Abrams and Jen Carfagno. Hurricane Irma, a destructive Category 5 monster, has moved over Barbuda. It is setting its sights on St. Martin right now throughout the Caribbean. Half the state of Florida is within the cone, and that cone has shifted a little bit. All right, Irma edges closer. Florida residents are preparing to batten down the hatches from Tampa to Titusville and everywhere in between, filling up sandbags, gassing up cars, and charging up generators. And as the mayor of Miami-Dade puts it, it is all hands on deck. And Stephanie, we're even hearing, now just hearing, I don't know if this is necessarily true, of some gas that's coming out. They're losing gas in Tampa, south of Tampa. Maybe.
Okay.
People running out of gas.
Running out of gas, yeah. Okay, so that is definitely a big problem into Florida. We're going to get into that in just a little bit. But first, let's look at this. This is a 5 a.m. advisory. Our pressure down to 914 millibars. Remember, if that pressure drops, you're going to see those winds go up higher. Now, sometimes there's a little bit of a lag, and just because the pressure drops a little, it doesn't mean instantly we're going to see those winds go up. 185 mile-per-hour winds. This thing going right over Barbuda. I just can't even fathom what it was like for them. You can see it is moving west-northwest here, but there's a little bit of a shift here. These things can wobble. They're not just going to stay on that shift, wobble a little bit south, and then that can change the whole track. So you have to watch out for that. So this is going to continue to head towards Puerto Rico. And is it going to be affecting them? Yes. Will it make landfall? Everything has kept it just a little bit to the north. But look at the past 48 hours. This thing has been ramping up, and now it's just been consistent. 185, 185, 185. So here's a look at the tropical storm force winds. You know, hurricane force winds extending out 50 miles from the center. Tropical storm force winds extending out a little bit farther than that. So even if you are not right in that eye wall, you're still going to get hurricane force winds if you live within 50 miles of the center of it. Hurricane warnings now going up to the Turks and Caicos. The northern side of the Dominica, we have hurricane warnings. Watches extending into the Bahamas and also into Cuba. But what's going to happen from there? That is what we are going to continue to watch. There's a big high pressure off to the northeast, a big high pressure off to the west, and there's a trough in the middle. And Jim, how much that trough erodes the high pressure, how much that gets back is going to really make or break it for Florida. We may end up with a Matthew situation and then slamming into the southeast.
We could. If you're in the Carolinas, this is just as much your storm as it is in Florida, so don't forget that. Interesting stuff this morning out of Barbuda. The anemometer failed at 155 mile-an-hour gust, okay? The minimum pressure that we saw was 921. I do believe the pressure went below that, but looking at some stuff with AdGDime weather, it started to come back online after it went back up above 920. So maybe that's the min for that particular barometer. Who knows? Anyway, now it's working its way still on the east side of Barbuda, but heading towards St. Bartholomew and also St. Martin. Conditions are deteriorating very rapidly there. 62 mile-per-hour gusts. Believe me, you could add another 100 on top of that. All right? Seriously, that's what's going to be in the eye wall. That's what you're going to deal with as we go through probably the next 2 to 3 hours. That wind field, again, will continue to slide on off to the north and west. The good news is it is moving north of west now versus due west like we were watching yesterday. So that's going to help us out a little bit in St. Croix. That said, the hurricane hunters actually left Homestead this morning as opposed to St. Croix. They would typically fly out of St. Croix, but they got away from there given the fact that the hurricane's in the close proximity. They've left out of Homestead this morning, so it's a much longer flight before they get in here. But here comes this thing ramming by Friday morning into the Turks and Caicos, heading to the south. Now, what's changed is instead of some of the models, this is bad for us in the United States, burying this thing into Cuba a little bit, it's kind of skimming it. It's keeping it just to the north of Cuba right now. That's the latest guidance. Either way, you're talking about big surge, big waves, especially in some of these harbors and bays that are facing the onslaught of those winds. And don't forget, too, even when the hurricane goes by, because it's so big, some of the islands, even on the south side, you'll get that southerly wind and you'll get a surge from the south side. So know where you are in respect to where it's going to go, the center is going to go. That's important for a lot of these islands. Now, here's what I wanted to show you. Here's 2 a.m. Forecast and models. Again, this is the 2 a.m. advisory. Notice how far west the cone was. Here is the new cone. It has got a lot more. It's pretty much in the center point of Florida versus juxtaposed off to the left a little bit. Still a very powerful hurricane. Nothing has changed with respect to that. But the new model guidance shifting to the right has brought the hurricane center's forecast a little bit to the right as well. Now, guys, as you're prepping, this is the possible earliest onset of tropical storm force winds. So look at that, if you will, in eastern Cape Guantanamo, Thursday 8 p.m. Miami, you're going to be between, I would say 8 p.m. and Saturday 8 a.m. for you. You have to watch out. And even up into the Panhandle, we could see winds depending on exactly where this forms. So Jen, or where this goes, I should say. But this shift to the right definitely should not let people in the Carolinas off guard.
Exactly.
By any means.
Exactly. And in the short term, it's the islands and this is bearing down right now, tearing across the Caribbean. Powerful wind and rain arrived yesterday in St. Kitts and Nevis, blowing and bending palm trees. The full force of the Category 5 storm is bearing down right now on St. Kitts and Nevis and on the northern Leeward Islands this morning. Irma has its sights set on the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico next today, Steph.
Yeah, we are. So let's have a look at some of the Caribbean timing here and show you what's happening here in St. Martin. Irma, now through Wednesday, winds gusting up to 40 miles an hour. Wednesday morning, we could have 110 mile per hour wind gusts, rainfall 8 to 12 inches, and surge up to 11 feet. Again, where you have that onshore flow, that's where you're going to have that surge. So basically, these rotate counterclockwise, okay? So you can go counterclockwise. So onshore flow here into places like Puerto Rico, onshore flow onto all of these islands, even an onshore flow here where we are, the hurricane is leaving, that could still give us a water push because the winds are so strong. So it is going to continue on this track. And again, the northern part of the islands here is where we are going to see the biggest problems. The Virgin Islands, it's a Wednesday morning to Thursday morning is when we are going to see some of those gusts start. Worse as we head into Wednesday evening, and we could see up to 11-foot surge. Again, that rainfall 8 to 12. So here is a look at that rainfall forecast, and it is going to be drenching for some portions of the islands. Thankfully, much of the heavier stuff stays just north of the islands until you get into the Bahamas. That's where it really comes down. San Juan, it's a Wednesday evening thing, Jen, 3 to 5, and that surge up to 5 feet.
Today, I mean, this is it. It is here, Puerto Rico, South Florida. Now, you guys saw the terror that Harvey handed Texas. They're taking no chances with Irma on their doorstep.
What just happened in Texas, we have to prepare. Our neighborhoods are really prone to flooding, so we're just trying to make sure that we are prepared enough to not have that happen to us.
Getting ready for a Category 5 monster starts with sandbags. We'll show the other preparations coming up at 10 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back after this short break.